in New Zealand.
Welcome. We met about 16 years ago. Do you remember when you were at the poetry place? It's been a long time. When you were here in the festival, and then
yes.
You were invited.
Hello, Tosiata.
Shalom.
Shalom. Welcome.
Hi, Dorit. How are you?
Fine.
Oh, good.
How are you? You're without pains?
I'm good. Yes, I've made it into the patient's lounge in the hospital.
Good.
Mm.
So we thank you for this also, that you make this effort and you're with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure to be here. It's under kind of strange circumstances, and with 2 broken feet, but yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Good.
Well, it's admirable, I must say. I know it's the best thing to do when you're in the hospital,
Yeah, it really is. The hospital is not my favorite place. So doing something like this is actually really nice.
Mm-hmm.
We'll start in a minute. I will introduce Dorit. Dorit will introduce you, but we'll give it another minute or two.
All right.
So good morning. It's morning.
Good morning.
Is it early for you?
It's 8 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, and it's busy out there in Ward 18. And it's kind of a grey autumn day in Christchurch, where I'm coming to you from.
Well, it's the first day of the spring, so if it's...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be our first day of autumn, I suppose.
So, Netzer, is it okay to begin?
Yes, we can begin. Let's start.
Okay.
So, good evening and good morning. I'm very honored to open the 3rd event of the Poetry Place International Festival. Welcome. We're happy to see you here. My name is Gilad Meiri, and I'm the artist director of Poetry Place with the poetess Noah Shakarji. Noah, you can say hello to Tusiata. And with us is also Netzer, who's part of the artistic directory of this festival. And I will introduce Dorit Weisman. She is among the founders of Poetry Place, where she was active for a decade. She's a poet, translator, author, and editor. She's published 11 poetry books and 3 prose books. Most recently, the short story collection, To the One and Only, in Kohel Books. She's a translator of 2 books of Charles Bukowski poetry and prose, and is the editor of 3 social anthologies, Mechat Kapayim, Soul, and Naked Queen. She has won many literary prizes in Israel and the world, including the Yehuda Amichai Poetry Prize. And she's doing a lot of other projects, but you can read at her Wikipedia. And but I must also mention that her next poetry book, Trans-Mongolian Train, will be soon published in the Poetry Place. So Chagiga for us, a festival for us. And Dorit, please, it's your turn to host Tusiata.
Okay, I read what I have. Tusiata Avia. Avia, I have to say.
Abia.
Tusiata Avia is an internationally acclaimed poet, writer, and performer. She has 4 books of poetry, 4 children's books, 2 short films, and 2 plays. Her play, Wild Dogs Under My Skirt, showed Off-Broadway in 2020, where it won the Fringe Encore Outstanding Production of the Year. Last year, Tusiata was awarded a member of the New Zealand Order of Merit for services to poetry and the arts. Her most recent book, The Savage Coloniser Book, won the 2025 Best Book of Poetry at the Ockham New Zealand Book Awards. Her new play, The Savage Coloniser Show, debuts 8 March in New Zealand. Tusiata last appeared in Israel in person at the 212-6 International Jerusalem Mishkenot Sha'ananim Poetry Festival. And a few words, I am very excited to host Tusiata, that I am translating something like a decade. And it is important to tell you where she is now. She is in a hospital in New Zealand after an accident with both feet broken. So thank you, Tusiata, that you are here with us. So I guess we are beginning with poetry, or Tusiata, you wish to say something?
Malole soifua maua malelangi e mama. So that's my greetings in the Samoan language. Wishing you all good health and good fortune. Waftai tele lava Dorit. Thank you very much for being very patient with me, for translating my work and being interested in my work now for some time. So I'm really grateful for that, because I don't suppose it would be that usual to have a New Zealand Samoan poet's work in Hebrew, kind of unusual. So I'm really grateful for that. Thank you to Poetry Place for having me. As was mentioned, I was in Jerusalem, I think it was 2006. Yeah. And at the festival there, which was amazing. Very sad that this isn't also in person, but you know, what can you do? Zoom is the way these days. So where would you like to go from here? Would you like me to launch straight into the first poem, Dorit, or?
Pardon, can you repeat?
That's right. Would you like me to go straight into the first poem?
Yes, please. The first poem is the Poetic Manifesto.
Mm-hmm. So this is called Poetry Manifesto. And I guess it doesn't really even need an introduction because it's obvious. Some of my poems will need an introductions because they have Samoan and New Zealand context to them. Poetry Manifesto. When I am 10, if a question is asked in class, some kind of answer appears inside me, but my stomach and heart buckle and twist like twin incubi. If I answer the question, the upward rush of leaving the body, I have to be almost certain I have the right answer. When I don't answer, the possession often continues till the vertigo wanes. I don't answer questions very often. A few decades later, in a master's class, I pray not to be asked questions. I can answer, if I really have to, but not as well as you. Not without a dictionary to make me sound like someone else. Okay, so I can talk about poetry, but I can only use ordinary words like good and fruit bat. I have a boyfriend. Before I even met him, he has written an academic article about my poetry. I take it as a compliment. He needs to get it finished and published so he can move on with his career. When we break up, I read the article. I can't understand much of it. It is as dense as a metal door made of hammered typesetting. Once I get to the end of a paragraph, I can't remember how I started. I don't mind. It's what I expected. I skim read my way to the last section, and then all of a sudden, like a Bavarian forest opening into a light-filled clearing, he has made his way into me and is telling everyone. You can see him standing there, shining in the reflected sun of the page, talking with real authority. I can talk about poetry better than I could when I was 10, and better than I could as a student, but I can't talk about it as good as you can. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you how I imagine it. Will that do? I imagine poetry as a supernatural force. Sometimes I can contact spirits like a channeler, but not a very good one. Once or twice, I've been able to do it word for word. Most of the time, I just get a glimmer, like a bit of silver lame projected into the air above my head. But often, it's just a picture on the front basin of my skull. I can write poetry, but don't ask me to talk about it. And that is Poetry Manifesto.
Thank you, Tosiata. So we can cancel the whole session, yes? No, now I'll read it in Hebrew, my translation to you. מניפסט פואטי. כשהייתי בת 10, אם נשאלה שאלה בכיתה, הופיע בתוכי איזושהי תשובה, אבל קיבתי וליבי קרסו והתפתלו כמו שדים תאומים. אם אני עונה על השאלה, הריגוש המתגבר של עזיבת הגוף, עליי להיות כמעט בטוחה שהתשובה שלי נכונה. כשאני לא עונה, האחיזה נמשכת עד שהסחרחורת דועכת. אני לא עונה על שאלות לעתים תכופות. כמה עשרות שנים אחר כך בכיתת אומן, אני מתפללת לא להישאל שאלות. אני יכולה לענות אם אני ממש חייבת, אבל לא טוב כמוך, לא בלי להסתכל במילון, שזה גורם לי להישמע כמו מישהי אחרת. אוקיי, אז אני יכולה לדבר על שירה, אבל יכולה להשתמש רק במילים רגילות כמו טוב ועטלף פירות. יש לי חבר. לפני שבכלל פגשתי אותו, הוא כתב מאמר אקדמי על השירה שלי. אני מקבלת זאת כמחמאה. עליו לסיים את המאמר ולפרסמו על מנת שיתקדם בקריירה שלו. כשנפרדנו, קראתי את המאמר. לא הבנתי הרבה ממנו. הוא דחוס כמו דלת מתכת שעשויה מסדר דפוס שרוקה בפטיש. כשאני מגיעה לסוף פסקה, אני לא זוכרת איך היא התחילה. לא אכפת לי, זה מה שציפיתי. רפרפתי עד לסוף הקטע, ואז פתאום, כמו יער בווארי שנפתח אל קרחת יער מלאת אור, הוא עשה דרכו אל תוכי, ומספר לכל אחד. אפשר לראות אותו עומד שם, בוהק, בהשתקפות הדף בשמש, מדבר בסמכות אמיתית. אני יכולה לדבר על שירה יותר טוב ממה שיכולתי כשהייתי בת 10, יותר טוב ממה שיכולתי כשהייתי סטודנטית, אבל אני לא יכולה לדבר עליה טוב כמוך. אגיד לך מה, אומר לך איך אני מדמיינת אותה, בסדר? אני מדמיינת את השירה ככוח על טבעי. לפעמים אני יכולה לתקשר עם רוחות, כמו בעלת אוב, אבל לא מוצלחת במיוחד. פעם או פעמיים הצלחתי לעשות זאת מילה במילה. רוב הזמן יש לי רק ניצוץ, כמו מנורת כסף שמוקרנת אל תוך האוויר שמעל ראשי, אבל בדרך כלל זו רק תמונה על האגן הקדמי של הגולגולת שלי. אני יכולה לכתוב שירה, אבל אל תבקשו ממני לדבר עליה. Thank you. So, shall we move to the next poem, or you want to say some more after this poem?
Yeah, I guess I don't have a lot to say about this. I think just that, you know, the title Poetry Manifesto is, you know, a bit grand for what it really is, you know, because it really just talks about finding my poetic voice, and the fact that, not so much finding it, but the fact that my poetic voice is my strongest voice. It's the place where I'm strongest in my life. And also the aspect of the, you know, the spiritual or intuitive process of writing for me. So yeah, that's basically, you know, my comment on that.
Okay, I suggest that we'll move to the next point.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm just going to give you some, I'm just going to give you a bit of context for this. So this is from my first book, Wild Dogs Under My Skirt, which also was staged as a one-woman play, and then as a 6-woman play. And this is the one that went off Broadway. And this book came out nearly 20 years ago, and the show ran on and off for 20 years as well. So, and I did a very small version of this in Israel, Nazareth, I think, a long time ago. So the poem that we're going to have a look at, I read it in a Samoan accent. So it you know, it might sound unfamiliar. So it's a Samoan, it's English, but it's Samoan English, or English in a Samoan accent. And it's things that girls should know. In other words, instructions to Samoan girls. And there's a couple of references that I'll just pick up on. So there is a aito, or a spirit figure called Tenesa or Telesa, who is a spirit and very common in Samoa and lives in a lot of different places. And she's kind of used to scare people, really. I think there's a lot more to her than that. But one of the things that people often do in Samoa is to cover their mirrors at nighttime, and not brush their hair at nighttime or beautify themselves at nighttime, particularly in maybe like smaller villages, because the idea is that if you beautify yourself and you look into this mirror, Telesa will come and slap you across the face for being, I don't know, vain. She's supposed to be this very beautiful and very jealous woman. There are a bunch of, what was that?
Netzer or Gilad, should we translate this to Hebrew, do you think?
We will not translate because they will last for ages, and
yeah.
So far it's understood. So
okay, I'll try and keep things short then.
No, feel
so
free.
There's a number.
Feel free.
There are a number of, okay, thanks. There are a number of Samoan words in here too. I won't tell you what all of them mean because I think it will probably take too long. But the very last line comes from the Bible, one of the 10 Commandments, which is something like, honor your mother and your father and you will have long life in the land.
We have it in Hebrew.
Yes,
I translated
yes.
it from
Of
the
course,
Bible,
it comes
yes.
from you guys in the first place.
Yes.
And that's often something quoted to Samoan children of no matter what age, you know, to honor your parents, to look after your parents. It's a big part of Samoan culture, but can often get pretty twisted. All right. Let's see. Here we go. Okay. And it's a list poem. Things that girls should know. Don't hang your panty outside. Don't forget to wash your panty in a shower. Otherwise, the ants will come and eat the dirty. Don't use the same towel as a boy. Don't comb your hair at the night time. Don't wear your hair out. Don't show your shoulder. Don't wear a trouser except in a town. Don't swim on the Sunday. Don't play on the Sunday. Yeah, it's better you don't do nothing on a Sunday. Just go to the church, stay home. Yeah, go to sleep. Don't sleep in a lava only. Don't sleep by yourself. Don't walk by yourself, especially in the dark. Don't forget to cover a mirror at the night time. Don't answer back. Don't be the show off. Don't calculate kiki. Don't fear poco. Don't kafao vale. Don't make a round. Don't make the friend with the boy. Don't make the bad thing with the boy. Don't drink or smoke or go to the nightclub. Oi, Lord, I said, don't you drink or smoke or go to the nightclub. Remember, girls, obey your parents, then we will live long in the land.
Thank you, Dorit. It's so adorable. I translated it to some kind of slang or broken Hebrew. I hope I did my best. דברים שבנות צריכות לדעת. אל תתלי את התחתון בחוץ. אל תשכחי לרחוץ את התחתון בדוש. אחרת הנמלים יבואו ויאכלו הלכלוך. אל תשתמשי במגבת של הבנים. אל תסתרקי בלילה. אל תלכי בשיער גלוי. אל תראי את הכתף שלך. אל תלבשי מכנס חוץ משבעיר. אל תשחי ביום ראשון. אל תשחקי ביום ראשון. יותר טוב לא תעשי כלום ביום ראשון, חוץ מללכת לכנסייה, להיות בבית וללכת לישון. אל תשני בשר עונג בלי כלום, אל תשני לבד. אל תלכי לבד, במיוחד לא בחושך. אל תשכחי לכסות את המראה בלילה. אל תעני בחזרה. אל תעשי הצגות. אל תתחצפי. אל תהי חכמה גדולה. אל תסתובבי סתם. אל תצאי עם בחורים. אל תעשי את הדבר הרע עם הבחורים. אל תשתי או תעשני או תלכי למועדון לילה. הבנת? אמרתי, אל תשתי או תעשני או תלכי למועדון לילה. זכרו, בנות, שמעו בקול הוריכם, אז יאריכו ימיכם על האדמה. זה טוב.
Awesome.
Okay. Let's continue. Now, yes, please.
No, you go ahead.
Now we are going to the stage of our discussion. This poem will combine inside the discussion, so I don't know if you need to show it now. Netzer, please wait. So I know you many years, and as you said, you don't have nothing to say about poetry, so we'll not talk about poetry. I'm joking. But I want to ask you some, you call it political question, or in New Zealand, I've been in New Zealand several years ago, and my impression was that there is very good integration between the minorities, I knew the Maori, and the white settlements. They keep the names of the Maori settlements, villages, and areas, the names of nature reserves. Is it really so? What I didn't see.
Well, yeah, and I guess that is the image that New Zealand has internationally. It's this beautiful place with rivers and mountains and forests, and it's very peaceful, and you know, the people are nice, and the indigenous people, you know, many of the indigenous names are kept, but really that is a very surface layer of the country, and the book that I've written, my latest book, which is the Savage Coloniser Book, and this has also gone on to be a 7-woman show, and it opened a week ago, and there was a lot of controversy around it. One poem, I mean, even before it opened, so one poem in particular became what they're calling in New Zealand the Aviya controversy. So one of the, you know, it's called the Savage Coloniser Book because it's about colonization and the impact that colonization has had on this country. Of course, we were colonized by Britain in the 1800s, and since that time, the indigenous people here, the Māori, have lost 90% of their land, stolen. The rates of suicide, of early death, of imprisonment, incarceration, are many times more than you will find in the white population. Many times. I think Māori make up about maybe 15, 12, I don't know, I don't have the figures in my head, but maybe 15% of the country. but they make up 50% of the prisons. So, yeah, like for many people, like for the Aboriginal people in Australia, like for Native Americans in Canada and the US, many Indigenous people around the world, this is often the situation. And I think with New Zealand, you know, as was your experience, Dorit, of coming here, you know, you only see the surface. You know, you only get the nice tourist
nice
experience and,
yes.
and how beautiful this country is, because it is stunningly beautiful. And we look like we're all friends here, but that is really not the case. So there's a particular poem that I'm going to read you, and it's addressed to James Cook. So Captain James Cook discovered New Zealand. Of course, he didn't discover it. You know, Māori people were already here for thousands of years, and claimed it for the British Empire. And, you know, and then began, you know, then began all the horrors of colonization. So I wrote a very strong poem addressing Captain Cook. And that poem was recently picked up by the leaders of two political parties in New Zealand, two far-right political parties, the ACT Party and the New Zealand First Party. So those leaders, David Seymour and Winston Peters, and one of the mayors of our cities, they called it racist, when the whole point is it's talking about racism. They you know, spoke against my free speech as an artist, which is very hypocritical, because one of those leaders is a big free speech advocate. And this was on TV, and this is in the papers, and you know, it's been a very bizarre experience here in this country, and I've never heard of a poem having this kind of effect.
That's encouraged.
Usually,
that poetry has an influence at all. That's
exactly.
Yeah.
Usually people don't care at all about poetry. You know, politicians don't read poetry. Kind of normal New Zealanders don't read poetry. So, you know, this particular poem and my show, you know, has had this massive spotlight. And I feel like some kind of hunted fox or hunted animal.
Wow.
Anyway, I'm going to read it to
Just
you.
I want to add to the Israeli audience, maybe they don't know that Cook is very adorable hero by the white people. And every place there's a Cook reservation, nature reserve, and Cook all kind of names, like in Israel can be Herzl Street, and now we'll listen to what Tusiata, the poet, did to
so
James Cook. Yes.
Everything here is named after Cook Island, you know, the Cook Islands in the Pacific, Mount Cook in New Zealand. One thing to be aware of, you know, I'm a New Zealander, but I'm also a Pacific Islander. And one of the things that James Cook did was sail around the Pacific Islands, behaving in the same racist, colonizing way. And he was finally killed in Hawaii. He had been trying to kidnap one of their kings, and so he was stabbed and died. And so I mention a lot about that. He was killed in a place called Kealakekua Bay. And I mention the names of the people that were there when he was killed. And you'll hear me say all the names, Kalani o Pu'u, who was the person who actually killed him, and a number of other people. And I also mentioned the names of the ships that he worked on. The first one, the Endeavour, is the ship that he came to New Zealand in. And the Endeavour is also very famous here. It's on our money. It's it's very, very famous name. And the names of the other ships are the Resolution, the Friendship, the Discovery, and the Free Love. I mean, the irony is insane. Anyway, I'll stop talking and I'll read the poem. I wrote this on the 250th anniversary of his arrival in New Zealand. Hey, James. Yeah, you in the white wig and that big Endeavour sailing the blue, blue ocean like a big asshole. Fuck you, bitch. James, I heard someone shoved a knife right up into the gap between your white ribs at Kealakekua Bay. I'm going to go there. Make a big makahiki luau. Cook a white pig. Feed it to the dogs and fuck you up, bitch. Hey, James, it's us. These days we're driving around in SUVs looking for you. Or white men like you who might be thieves or rapists or kidnappers or murderers. Yeah, or any of your descendants or any of your incarnations. 'Cause you know, hey bitch, we're gonna fuck you up. Tonight, James, it's me, Leilani, and a car full of brown girls. We find you on the corner of the Justice Precinct. You've got another woman and a headlock, and I've got my father's pig hunting knife in my fist. And we're coming to get you. Sailing around in your resolution, your friendship, your discovery, and your fucking free love. Watch your ribs, James, because I'm coming with Kalani o Pu'u, Kanekapolei, Kanaina, Keawe o Pala, Kula ili Moku, who is a god, and Wa'a, who is king with a knife. And then, James, then we're gonna fuck you up for good, bitch.
Thank you. יום השנה 250 להגעתו של ג'יימס קוק לניו זילנד. היי, ג'יימס, כן, אתה, בפאה הלבנה, באותה אנדבר הגדולה, מפליג במים הכחולים כחולים, כמו חר הגדול. איך תזדיין, בן זונה? ג'יימס, שמעתי שמישהו דחף סכין ממש לתוך הרווח שבין צלעותיך הלבנות במפרץ קיאלקקua. יש לי פה הערות, זה המקום שבו הוא נרצח. אני הולכת ללכת לשם, להכין מסיבה מפוארת, לבשל חזיר לבן, ולהאכיל בו את הכלבים, ולך תזדיין בן זונה. היי, ג'יימס, זה אנחנו. בימים אלו אנחנו נוסעים מסביב בג'יפונים, מחפשים אותך. או גברים לבנים כמוך שיכולים להיות גנבים, או אנסים, או חוטפים, או רוצחים, כן? כל אחד מהצאצאים שלך, או מהגלגולים שלך, כי אתה יודע, בן זונה, אנחנו הולכים לזיין אותך. הלילה, ג'יימס, זו אני, דניאל אלני, ומכונית מלאה בחורות חומות, מוצאות אותך בפינה של בית המשפט. יש לך אישה אחרת שאתה מצמיד בחוזקה, ולי יש באגרופי את סכין צד החזירים של אבי, ואנחנו באים לקחת אותך, שט מסביב בהחלטה שלך, כן, אלו שמות אוניות שובה, החברות שלך, התגלית שלך, והאהבה החופשית המזוינת שלך. שמור על צלעותיך, ג'יימס, כי ניבא עם קלניאופו, עכשיו שמות המלכים המקומיים שהיו נוכחים ברצח שלו בהוואי. אני חוזרת, שמור על צלעותיך, ג'יימס, כי ניבא עם קלניאופו, קנקפולי, קנאינה, קיבי אופלה, קוקאי לימוקו, שהוא אל, ונאוע, שהוא מלך עם סכין. ואז, ג'יימס, אז אנחנו נזיין אותך לתמיד, בן זונה. תשמעו, לא נעים לי, בדרך כלל אני לא אומר את המילים האלה. That was the hippo. Okay. So, would you like to tell us something else before we are going to the second round of reading your poetry, because your poems is so long. We have about 10 minutes.
Okay, right. I'll move a bit faster. All right, so the last two are
please,
from...
but I would like to ask you if now, these days, as a minority, do you feel better in New Zealand?
I don't think it's a good time. I don't think it's a good time at the moment. I feel like one of the reasons that there's been so much trouble here over this poem is because it's a time when the far right and racists and homophobic people, people with big biases feel entitled to talk about that. They feel as if they have the right. Whereas not very long ago, it would have been something that, the racists and the homophobes would have talked about, not in a public way. They would have just talked with their own friends. But to come out in public the way that they are at the moment, I think that it just really echoes Trumpism and that far right swing and that entitlement to say, that kind of hate speech. I think it's definitely something that I'm feeling here in New Zealand, but I think it is part of a wider kind of world kind of thing. Yeah.
Pity to hear this, but I understand you. We in Israel now we experience something like this. So it's better to proceed with the poetry. Let's read, please, Faustina.
Faustina. All right. So very quickly, Faustina is a sestina. For those of you who know what a sestina is, basically it's 6 stanzas of 6 lines, and the final word of each line repeats in a certain pattern. And then in the last stanza, so it's girl, susu, flashing, women's house, ass. So these are the 6 words, and they repeat in a certain pattern. And then in the last stanza of 3 lines, they repeat in the middle and the end of each line. So I will, and ba'umuku means slut. So ba'ustina is a sestina, about a slut. All right. And yeah. I am the devil, ba'umuku girl, and I walk down the street, shake, shake my susu. I chew gum and smile with my gold teeth flashing. I call out to all the good women sitting in the house. Hey, I die. And I make them see my ass. I am the dog girl with the fire in my ass. They call me the woman, not the girl. My thighs rub together, make the fire in their house. My fat taro legs, my fat taro belly, my fat taro susu. I walk past all the good women, and I laugh with my white teeth flashing. Ah! I smell like the hot rain flashing, and all the good men are looking for my ass. All the good men are waiting for the backs of their women. You are a good girl, the sexy girl, the lovely, beautiful girl. They run like the dog. I let them lick my susu. They run in the bed. They run to their house. I walk past the high chief house. I walk on a high heel shoe, like the spear flashing, my bra tight. So I have the 4 susu. The whole chief council look for my ass and make the special fine for the ba'umuku girl. I can hear the laughing, the smiling of the women. My red toenails wave to the women's. My red toenails shine to the women's in their house. I am the devil ba'umuku girl, and I laugh when they find me with my red lips flashing. I pull my skirt up and show my fat taro ass. I laugh like the dog. Like the volcano shaken by susu. I am drinking on the road and playing with my susu, dancing with the dog men, running from their women. I am laughing at the dog men, licking at my ass. I am laughing at the dog men away from their house. I am laughing at the dog men, their black asses flashing. We love you, sexy girl. We love you, beautiful girl. We love you, lovely girl. I laugh like the dog, like the volcano, like the asshole. They cry for me like susu. We want you, hot rain girl. We have forgotten our women. We will go to the house of Uloki. We will go with our black asses, flashing.
Sorry, I was on mute. Tusiata, thank you. Susu is a chest and the milk, yes? In some way.
Yeah.
Okay. So I translated, I cannot imitate your reading, but I translated. You were wonderful. I call it Zanzina, which is a combine of Sestina and Zanzina is a kind of whore, little whore in Hebrew. So Zanzina. אני הילדה השטנית ביותר, אני הולכת ברחוב מנענעת לי את הסוסות. לועסת מסטיק, מחייכת בשיני זהב מנצנצות, קוראת לנשים הטובות, יושבות להן בבית, היי, חרה עליכם, ואני מכריחה אותן לראות לי את התחת. אני ילדה כלבה ואש לי בתחת, הם קוראים לי האישה, לא ילדה יותר. הירכיים שלי משתפשפות יחד, עושות להם אש בבית. הרגליים השמנות שלי, הבטן השמנה שלי, הסוסו השמן שלי, חולפת על פני כל הנשים הטובות, ואני צוחקת, שיניי הלבנות בוהקות. אני מריחה כמו נשים, כמו גשם חם מנצנץ. וכל הגברים הטובים רוצים רק לראות לי את התחת. כל הגברים הטובים רק מחכים שנשיהם תסובבנה הגב. את הילדה הטובה, הילדה הסקסית מקסימה ביותר. הם רצים כמו כלבים, ואני מרשה להם ללקק לי את הסוסו. הם רצים מאחור, הם רצים עליהם לבית. אני חולפת לצ'יף לפני הבית, הולכת על נעלי עקב גבוהות כמו חנית מנצנצת נצת. החזייה שלי הדוק, כך שיש לי 4 סוסו. כל מועצת הצ'יף רוצה רק לראות לי את התחת. ומכינה את המעדן לילדה הזונה ביותר. אני יכולה לשמוע את הצחוק, את חיוך הנשים הטובות. ציפורני רגליי האדומות הן הפנפות, פות, לנשים הטובות. ציפורני רגליי האדומות מבהיקות, קות, לנשים בבית. אני הילדה הזונה השטנית ביותר, ואני צוחקת כשהן מוצאות אותי עם שפתיי האדומות בוהקות. אני מרימה את החצאית, מראה להן כמה שמן התחת. אני צוחקת כמו הכלב, הר הגעש מנענע לי את הסוסו. אני שותה על הדרך, משחקת לי בסוסו, רוקדת עם הגברים הכלבים שבורחים מנשותיהם הטובות. אני צוחקת על הגברים הכלבים שמלקקים לי בתחת. אני צוחקת על הגברים הכלבים הרחוקים מהבית. אני צוחקת על הגברים הכלבים, התחת השחור שלהם בוהק. אנחנו אוהבים אותך ילדה סקסית, אנחנו אוהבים אותך ילדה יפה, אוהבים אותך ילדה מקסימה ביותר. אני צוחקת כמו הכלב, כמו הר הגעש, כמו חור התחת. הם זועקים אליי כמו סוסו, אנחנו רוצים אותך ילדת גשם חם יותר, שכחנו את נשותינו הטובות. אנחנו נלך לשאול, במקום לבית אנחנו נלך, והתחת השחור שלנו בוהק.
Thank you, Dorit. Thank you, Tusiata. Before we address you with a question or two from the audience, I must say that Dorit has translated you really wonderfully. And these poems are going to be published in the literary magazine that we have, Nano Poetica, and some... and hopefully a book. Who knows?
It'll be so good.
Yeah. And sorry we couldn't manage to read the Gaza poem, which is very important and interesting. But we will address you with a question, but that poem will be published also in the
Okay.
magazine. And there are two interesting questions. One was, why do you cover the mirror at night? From one of the poems. And then another interesting question is that, did you always have this political awareness, or it came to you after something happened, something about what they identified as feminism? Is that due to something that happened in your life? So these are the questions.
Okay, I'll answer the second question first. No, nothing particular happened. Just the experience of being a woman of color, living in a white majority, westernized, colonized country, where the indigenous people of this country are treated appallingly, and where the history of this country has been whitewashed. You know, like the true history of this country is not taught in schools. So most New Zealanders grow up just not knowing what happened here, and therefore not understanding why, you know, just not having that experience of racism and the effects of colonization, and therefore just really not understanding it. Because for a person from the majority or the white New Zealand population, they just don't have that experience. They live in the same country, but they don't have that experience. So there's a lot of ignorance here, a lot. So no, it wasn't one particular thing. It's just been my entire life of growing up in this country. And, you know, I was a child in the 70s, a teenager in the 80s, a particularly racist time in this country, where Pacific Islanders like myself were dawn raided. In other words, the police had the right to enter their houses in the middle of the night and take them straight to prison. You know, I could go on and on. There's a big white supremacy movement here in this country. So, yeah, that's a short answer to a big issue.
Well, you know, we know what you're talking about. We live in Israel.
Yeah, of course. And you see this in so many countries around the world, you know. But I think New Zealand has gotten away with having this clean, green, lovely image in the world, and that is not the case.
And about the mirror, why do you cover it at night?
Okay, so the mirror, so it's a Samoan legend. You know, there's a Samoan supernatural spirituality, and there are many gods and goddesses, but also spirits. I don't think they're evil spirits, but there is one in particular, a number actually, of these women figures, very beautiful, and they've got a very bad name in Samoa. I think they've been demonized myself, but the idea is you cover the mirror, and because if you look into the mirror at night time, you know, you will see one of these spirits, Tenesa, you know, looking, you know, out of the mirror, particularly if you're like beautifying yourself. So all the mirrors are covered at night. And it's actually, weirdly, it's still something I do and my daughter does. And it's not really, it's not because of Tenesa, it's just, I don't know, makes me feel better.
I can understand. Yeah, you don't want to mess with the spirits, So there was another question, and that'll be the last for this evening. Maybe there'll be more evenings, who knows. Give us some, you would say, instructions or some of your wisdom about how to read a poem.
How to read a poem?
Yeah, you read it beautifully. I mean, there's something that
right.
Bewitches everybody, and everybody's asking, so how does she does that,
I guess I'm certainly not a trained actor, not at all, but I do have that very performative thing in myself, but a lot of my work is written. I don't write it to perform, but I find when it's on the page, it works well for performance. And I think also I'm thinking about either I'm the character, or particularly in this book, there are a number of different characters speaking. So, I'm kind of taking on a number of different characters. Even when I'm speaking as myself, I'm a version of myself.
Okay, thank you. And we're just about to close up this beautiful event. And Dorit and Tusiata, each one of you, a few last words. Dorit, please.
I want to thank, first of all, Tusiata Avia, that you gave us the opportunity to see you physically and hear your witching words, as Gilad said, your witching reading. And I hope to meet sometime physically in Israel or New Zealand, doesn't it? And I want to thank Poetry Place and all the organizers, Noah, Gilad, Netzer, and the others that I don't know. And it's great festival to see poets from all over the world. 11 hours before us.
I live
10
in the
hours
future.
Later.
Yeah, I live in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Dorit. You've been so patient with me because I have not been easy to pin down, I know. And so, yes, and I hope we do some more work together and publish something. That would be really awesome. Thank you, Gilad and Netza, for having me here. Thank you to the audience. Thank you so much for coming. And
thank you to the audience.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to have you here. It's so lovely to be speaking across the world to a place that has a real place in my heart. I lived in South Sinai for a year on the Egyptian side, way back in the very early the late mid-90s. So I used to go back and forward quite a lot. So I know Israel fairly well, and I have a number of friends there. So it's a place that's close to my heart. So aloha to you. Love to you all. Thank you so much for having me.
Love to you, Tusiata, and to you, Dorit, and all our audience. And thank you, Dorit, again for this great project of translation, which is, I mean, the audience wrote under the chat, but you probably saw that everybody is fascinated from Dorit's translation. So you're alive in Hebrew, and that's beautiful.
Yay.
Yeah. So tomorrow we will begin at 6 p.m. with Rita Dav and her translator, Karmit Rosen. And, let's say right now the spirits are intervening for a second, because I wanted to say, drive home safely, from the Zoom to the kitchen. And so have a good night and have a good day, Tusiata.
And I'm going to drive home safely in my wheelchair back to my hospital room.
Be
Well,
well,
thank
Tusiata. Health.
See you, Dorit.
Thanks, Tusiata.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. וואו.
כן, כן. תודה דורית, היה אירוע מצוין, היה נפלא. וואו.
כן, ממש וואו.
כן, נהדר, נהדר, ויש, את רואה דורית אתה לשתק. אם את אומרת משהו עכשיו, יש פה